When you think about some of the most dangerous point guards in the game, 4 names always come to mind: Jalen Brunson, Trae Young, Damian Lillard, and Steve Nash. These players may have different styles, but they all share one thing in common: they know how to control the game. Whether it's Brunson's crafty footwork, Trae Young's deadly pick-and-roll reads, Dame's unlimited shooting range, or Nash's surgical playmaking. These guards show us that playing the position isn't just about dribbling and passing, it's about making the right play at the right time. And in this video, we're going to break down what makes each of these players so effective and how you can bring those same skills into your own game. Make sure you stick around until the end, because I'll be giving you a complete workout, on court and off court, that's designed to help you train like these 4 elite point guards. Jalen Brunson isn't the flashiest guard, and he doesn't blow people away with highlight dunks or insane athleticism. But what makes him one of the toughest players to guard is his ability to create space in small windows, especially in the mid-range. He's a master of efficiency, never wasting movement, never rushing, and always making sure that every step, every fake, and every dribble has a purpose. Where some guards rely on raw speed or shooting range, Brunson beats you by outthinking and outpositioning you.
Chased by Beasley, works against Olynyk in the paint, fires up the shot, too strong, not.
Goodwood extends the defense. 7 to shoot. Brunson, pull-up jump shot, puts it!
One of Brunson's biggest strengths is how well he uses his body. Most young guards don't understand how important this is. Instead of just relying on quickness to blow by defenders, Brunson uses angles and leverage to keep defenders off balance. He knows how to drop his shoulder into a defender's chest, how to bump them legally without drawing an offensive foul, and how to use his frame to protect the ball all the way into his shot. If you study his possessions, you'll notice that he creates separation not just with his dribble, but with his footwork and positioning. This allows him to score even when defenders are physically bigger or more athletic than him. Another piece of Brunson's game that separates him is his mastery of pivots. In today's game, footwork is often overlooked because players get caught up in speed and shooting. But Brunson has built his game around being able to stop on a dime, pivot off either foot, and make defenders commit before he takes his shot. Watch how he operates in the post, especially against switches. He'll back a smaller defender down, then use a spin, an up and under, or a simple shoulder fake to create just enough room for a clean jumper. That ability comes from countless reps working on balance, staying low, and keeping his dribble alive until the very last second. Patience is another trait that defines Brunson. He doesn't let defenders speed him up. Most guards, when pressured, either force a quick shot or over-dribble. Brunson does the opposite. He slows the game down. He probes, keeps his defender guessing, and waits until the exact right moment to attack. This is why he's so effective late in games. Defenders get tired of chasing him, and when they relax for even a second, he punishes them with a pull-up or a crafty finish. If you want to play like Brunson, you need to train yourself to remain calm under pressure, and to use hesitation as a weapon. Hesitation dribbles, pump fakes, and subtle pauses are all tools that force defenders to react first, giving you the advantage. His mid-range scoring is where he does the most damage. While the NBA is dominated by threes and layups, Brunson shows the value of being able to consistently knock down shots from 12 to 18 feet. He thrives in that area because he can get to his spots, rise up quickly, and shoot over defenders before they can recover. The mid-range jumper off the dribble, the turnaround fade from the block, and the short pull-up after a bump are all staples of his arsenal. These shots might not look glamorous, but they are efficient because they come from positions where Brunson is most comfortable and most in control. Another overlooked part of Brunson's game is his ability to finish off balance. A lot of players can hit shots when everything is perfect, feet set, shoulders square, wide open. But basketball rarely gives you those perfect looks, especially at higher levels. Brunson practices making shots when his body is twisting, when he's fading away, or when contact throws him off balance. His balance and core strength allow him to still get the ball on target, even when the shot isn't clean. If you want to replicate this, you need to train shooting off one leg, fading away from contact, and keeping your follow-through consistent no matter what your lower body is doing. Defenders hate guarding Brunson because he's unpredictable. He doesn't rely on just one move. If you take away his drive, he'll hit you with a step back. If you contest his jumper, he'll pivot into a pump fake and draw a foul. If you cut off his strong hand, he's comfortable finishing with his offhand. That versatility is what makes him so difficult to game plan against. The key takeaway here is that you need to have counters. It's not enough to have one or two go-to moves. You have to build layers into your game, moves, counters, and counters to your counters, so that defenders can never fully take you out of your rhythm. Brunson's style is like chess. He's always thinking one move ahead, setting up defenders with something early, so he can hit them with the opposite later. For example, he might drive strong to his left twice in a row, forcing the defender to overplay it. Then, the next time down, he'll fake left, spin right, and get an easy pull-up. It's calculated. He's constantly reading the defense, taking mental notes on how you react, and then exploiting it when the game is on the line. That level of detail requires film study, repetition, and a willingness to slow the game down in your head, so you're never reacting blindly. You're always in control. If you're a player looking to model your game after Jalen Brunson, the key areas of focus should be footwork, patience, body control, and counters. Work on being comfortable with contact, being able to finish or pull up even when you're not fully balanced, and developing a reliable mid-range shot. Add in the ability to pivot and operate in the post as a guard, and you'll find yourself scoring in situations where other players get stuck. Brunson proves that you don't need elite athleticism to dominate. What you need is skill, control, and the ability to dictate the terms of every possession. That's what makes him one of the most dangerous mid-range specialists in the game, and that's why studying his approach can elevate your own game in ways you might not expect.
Brunson on the drive. The floater's up. Shot's good. Brunson, nice crossover. Gets inside.
Trae Young plays the game at his own pace, and his biggest weapon is how well he manipulates defenders in the pick and roll. At its core, the pick and roll is simple. A ball handler uses a screen to either create separation or force the defense into a rotation. But Trae elevates it into an art form. He doesn't just take what the defense gives him, he dictates what the defense must give up. That's why he's one of the toughest guards to contain in the modern NBA. The first layer of Trae's effectiveness is his pace. Many guards treat the pick and roll as a race, sprinting off the screen and hoping to beat the defense. Trae does the opposite. He changes speeds, hesitates, and uses the screen like a surgeon, not a sprinter. By slowing down at the right moment, he forces defenders to reveal their coverage. If the big drops back, Trae calmly walks into a deep three or floats into the lane for his signature runner. If the defense hedges high, he strings them out sideways, keeping his dribble alive until a passing angle opens. That patience is what allows him to manipulate defenders instead of being manipulated by them. Another defining feature of Trae's game is his floater. The floater is one of the toughest shots in basketball because it's in between a layup and a jumper, but for Trae, it's automatic. The floater punishes drop coverage, where the defending big man stays near the paint to protect the rim. Instead of trying to finish over a shot blocker, Trae lofts the ball over their outstretched arms before they can contest. What makes his floater lethal is not just the touch, but the consistency. He can shoot it from 5 feet or from 10 feet out, always with the same soft release. Developing this shot is essential if you want to play like Trae, because it bridges the gap between driving all the way to the rim and pulling up for a jumper. But Trae doesn't stop there. His lob passing works hand in hand with his floater. This is where defenders are truly trapped. If the big defender commits too early to stop the floater, Trae instantly throws the lob to his rolling big for an easy dunk. If the big stays home to protect against the lob, Trae floats it in himself. This two-pronged threat forces defenses into no-win situations. For young players, this is a critical concept. You need at least 2 complementary options in your pick-and-roll game so that every defensive choice can be punished. Then there's his deep shooting range. Defenses are built to protect the paint and recover to shooters at the three-point line. Trae breaks that structure by pulling up from 28 to 30 feet with confidence. This stretches defenses beyond their comfort zone, forcing them to pick him up higher on the floor, which creates more space for his teammates. Deep shooting isn't just about having range, it's about balance, shot preparation, and confidence. Trae keeps his base wide, his release compact, and he practices these shots daily so that in games it feels natural. If you want to add this to your game, you can't just throw up logo threes occasionally. You need to build up from NBA range, then progressively move further back while maintaining proper mechanics. What makes all of these skills work is Trae's ability to read defenses. He doesn't decide what he's going to do before the screen comes. He reacts to how the defense plays it, but in a way that always keeps him in control. For example, if the defender fights over the screen but the big plays back, he knows the pull-up three is open. If the defender goes under the screen, he uses the screen again, resets, and makes them chase. If the defense traps, he strings it out with his dribble and looks for the release valve, usually hitting the roll man or the weak side shooter. This level of reading is what separates good pick-and-roll players from great ones. It's about cataloging defensive tendencies and knowing the answer to every coverage. A big part of Trae's unpredictability comes from his handle. His ball control allows him to snake through defenders, reject screens, and keep his dribble alive in tight spaces. The tighter your handle, the more time you buy to make reads. Without that, the defense can speed you up and force turnovers. Trae mixes hesitation dribbles, in and outs, and crossovers, not just to look flashy, but to maintain control of pace and angles. If you're trying to replicate his style, don't just work on basic dribbling drills. Practice keeping your dribble alive under pressure, moving laterally, and being able to change direction without losing your balance. Another subtle but critical part of Trae's game is his passing vision. He doesn't just make the obvious play, he makes the pass that creates a scoring advantage. When the defense rotates, he sees the second-level help defender, not just the first one. That's how he consistently finds corner shooters or weak side cutters. This comes from film study and reps. To really play like Trae, you need to develop the habit of scanning the entire floor, not just focusing on your man or the immediate help. You have to train yourself to process multiple defenders at once and anticipate their rotations before they happen. Ultimately, what makes Trae Young the maestro of the pick and roll is the combination of skill, patience, and intelligence. He forces defenses to play his game. If you step up, he's behind you with a lob. If you sag off, he burns you from deep. If you overcommit, he snakes the dribble and resets. Every option has a counter, and every counter has a counter. That's why he's so difficult to guard, and that's the model you should follow if you want to dominate from the guard position.
Trae for three. Three with 3:41 remaining. Young, long three-pointer, puts it in! Trae Young.
Damian Lillard is the definition of fearless. What separates him from most guards is not just his skill, but his mentality. Dame has the confidence to take and make shots from well beyond the three-point line. That stretches defenses in a way very few players can, and it changes the geometry of the court the second he steps across half court. His pull-up shooting makes him a scoring threat at all times, and defenders are forced to make impossible decisions because of it. But what people often overlook is that Lillard is not just a shooter. His explosiveness off the dribble, his finishing ability through contact, and his decision-making under pressure round out his game. To play like Lillard, you need to develop not just the skill to shoot from deep, but the confidence, physical tools, and balance to punish defenders in every coverage. The first part of Lillard's game that stands out is his limitless shooting range. Most players are dangerous from just beyond the three-point line. Lillard extends that out by 5 to 10 feet, consistently hitting shots from the logo. What makes this effective is not just his range, but his ability to shoot off the dribble with balance and rhythm. His mechanics remain compact, even when he's pulling up from 30 feet. This is key for anyone trying to emulate his game. Shooting from deep isn't about forcing long threes. It's about building your shot mechanics to the point where your form stays consistent regardless of distance. That means focusing on a strong base, proper energy transfer from your legs, and a quick release. Dame practices these shots daily, so by the time he takes them in games, they're not heat checks. They're high-confidence looks. Deep shooting forces defenders to guard you much earlier in possessions, which opens up driving lanes and passing angles. This is where Dame's quick first step comes in. If defenders crowd him to contest his jumper, he has the burst to blow by them. His explosiveness allows him to get downhill before the defense can rotate, and his strength lets him finish through contact once he gets inside. Many guards can shoot deep, and many can drive, but what makes Dame dangerous is his ability to pair both. He forces defenders to pick their poison, either give him space and risk the three, or press up and risk getting beat off the dribble. Another layer of his scoring is how well he finishes at the rim. Lillard has developed the ability to finish with either hand, absorb contact, and still control the ball in traffic. He doesn't just rely on speed, he uses angles, timing, and body control. For example, he'll take a bump from a big man and then extend his arm late to flip the ball softly off the glass. This ability comes from hours of practicing finishes against resistance, not just layups in open space. If you want to train like Dame, you need to simulate contact in your workouts, using pads or defenders to bump you mid-drive so you can learn to stay on balance and still make the shot. One of Dame's underrated weapons is his pull-up jumper in the mid-range. While his threes get most of the attention, his ability to stop quickly off the dribble and rise for a jumper at 15 to 18 feet is what keeps defenses honest. If a defender drops back to take away the drive, he can stop and hit the pull-up before the big man recovers. This complements his deep range perfectly because it adds another scoring layer. If you want to emulate this, practice stopping on a dime after a hard drive and going straight into your jumper without losing balance. It's about deceleration as much as acceleration. Lillard's ability to perform in clutch situations is another part of his game that young players often admire but don't fully understand. His famous Dame time moments aren't just about confidence, they're about preparation. He works on high-pressure shots in practice, simulating end-of-game scenarios where he has to create a look quickly. By training in those situations, the actual games feel familiar, not overwhelming. For hoopers, the lesson here is to put yourself in uncomfortable situations during training. Practice shots when you're tired, when the defender is right in your face, or when you have only a second to get your shot off. Confidence comes from repetition under pressure. Another overlooked aspect of Dame's game is his strength and conditioning. His deep shooting and explosive drives are only possible because of the foundation he's built physically. Core strength helps him shoot from long range without overusing his arms. Lower body strength gives him the power to explode past defenders and absorb contact in the paint. Conditioning allows him to maintain that explosiveness in the fourth quarter when others are fatigued. If you want to play like Dame, you can't just shoot threes for hours. You need to build the body that supports that style of play. Decision-making is also a critical piece of Lillard's effectiveness. While he's a prolific scorer, he doesn't take wild shots just to prove a point. His shot selection is rooted in reading defenses. He knows when to attack, when to reset, and when to trust teammates. This balance is what allows him to stay efficient even with such a high offensive load. For developing players, the lesson here is that confidence must be paired with judgment. Taking deep shots only works if you can also punish defenses by driving, pulling up, or passing when the defense overcommits. Ultimately, Damian Lillard embodies the balance between skill and mentality. His skill set, deep shooting, explosive driving, mid-range control, and finishing, is paired with the mental toughness to take big shots and live with the results. He stretches the defense in ways most guards cannot, and he uses that to open opportunities not only for himself but for his teammates. To play like Lillard, you must commit to mastering the fundamentals of shooting, develop explosive strength and quickness, and build the confidence to perform under pressure. Dame's game shows that being a deep-range assassin isn't about pulling up from the logo just for highlights. It's about forcing defenses to guard the entire floor, punishing them when they overcommit, and maintaining balance between outside shooting and inside attacking. That combination is what makes him one of the most dangerous guards in basketball. And it's a blueprint that any serious player can study and apply. Steve Nash may not have had the size or athleticism of other guards, but his basketball IQ and playmaking ability were unmatched. What made Nash truly dangerous was his ability to control the pace of the game. Some players rely on speed, while others rely on strength, but Nash relied on precision. Every dribble, every hesitation, every pass had a purpose. He wasn't just moving for the sake of moving, he was probing, studying, and dissecting the defense like a surgeon. The first thing to understand about Nash is his use of the live dribble. Too many players pick up their dribble the moment they feel pressure, but Nash was the opposite. He could keep his dribble alive for 10 or even 15 seconds, snaking around screens, circling under the basket, and dragging defenders out of position until an opening appeared. That's why his teams, especially during his Phoenix Suns days, ran such fluid, high-octane offenses. Defenses had to constantly chase him, and the moment they made even the slightest mistake, Nash would make them pay. If you want to emulate this part of his game, you need to train ball control under pressure. Work on dribbling drills where you keep your dribble alive against a defender for extended periods, and don't look to force the first pass. Look to create the best pass. But Nash wasn't just a passer. One of the most overlooked parts of his game was how efficient he was as a scorer. Many people know about his famous 50-40-90 seasons, shooting 50% from the field, 40% from three, and 90% from the free throw line. But what made those numbers meaningful was when he scored. Nash had the ability to punish defenders for helping too much or sagging off. If you went under the screen, he'd knock down the pull-up three. If you played too tight, he'd use his craftiness to slip by and hit a soft floater. His scoring forced defenses to respect him, which opened up passing lanes for his teammates. To play like Nash, you can't just be a passer. You need to become a threat to score at all three levels: rim, mid-range, and three-point line. A key detail in Nash's game was his angles. He didn't throw straight-line passes most of the time. He threw passes around defenders, bounce passes through traffic, behind-the-back feeds, no-look dimes. These weren't just for show. They were practical ways to get the ball to teammates when defenders' hands were in the passing lanes. If you want to build this into your game, practice passing with creativity. Don't just throw chest passes. Work on bounce passes with spin, hook passes off the dribble, and one-handed passes with either hand. Nash had both hands trained to the point where he was comfortable delivering the ball from any position, and that made him unpredictable. Another part of Nash's playmaking mastery was decision-making speed. He didn't need time to analyze. He already knew what was going to happen before the defense reacted. That's where film study and court vision come in. Nash was constantly reading where defenders rotated, and he anticipated the second and third level of help, not just the on-ball defender. For example, when running a pick and roll, Nash wasn't only looking at the big who stepped up, he was already watching the weak side wing rotate, deciding if the skip pass was open. That's how he always seemed one step ahead. To apply this, you need to study game film, not just highlights. Watch how defenses shift and where openings appear. Train your brain to recognize these patterns so that in a game, your decisions become instinctive. It's also worth pointing out how Nash used his conditioning as a weapon. He never stopped moving. This constant movement not only kept him a threat, but it also forced defenses to work harder. When you're conditioned at a high level, you can keep attacking while your defender wears down. If you want to emulate Nash's style, your off-ball movement and fitness level have to be just as sharp as your on-ball skills. Defensively, Nash wasn't elite, but he made up for his lack of size and athleticism with positioning and effort. He understood angles, knew when to funnel players toward help, and rarely took plays off. This is an important reminder for players who want to model their game after him. Even if you're not the strongest or fastest, you can still contribute defensively through awareness and communication. The bigger lesson from Steve Nash is efficiency and unselfishness. He never forced plays for the sake of highlights. He consistently sought the highest percentage outcome. Sometimes that was him scoring. Sometimes it was hitting a shooter. Sometimes it was resetting the play and probing again. If you want to model Nash, train yourself to resist the temptation of hero ball. Be patient, see the floor, and always look for the right read.
When you put all these elements together, keeping the dribble alive, shooting efficiently, passing creatively, reading defenses in advance, moving without the ball, and conditioning yourself to play at a relentless pace, you begin to understand why Nash is remembered as one of the greatest playmakers in NBA history. He showed that you don't need to be the tallest or most athletic to dominate. You just need skill, intelligence, and the ability to make everyone around you better.
Here's a sample workout designed to help you train like Jalen Brunson, Trae Young, Damian Lillard, and Steve Nash. Screenshot this and adjust it to your liking. So if you want to take your game to the next level, study these four guards closely. From Brunson's footwork to Trae's pick and roll mastery, Dame's deep shooting confidence, and Nash's playmaking genius, each one of them brings something unique that you can add to your own style. Remember, it's not about copying everything they do, it's about learning the principles behind their skills and applying them in your own way.
If you found this breakdown helpful, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more in-depth basketball content, and drop a comment down below. Which of these guards do you model your game after the most? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.